Walk into the royal treasury of Spain in the middle of the 16th century, and you find the strongboxes stripped, the ledgers torn, and the candle guttering over columns of debt that no one can pay. This was the richest empire the world had ever seen. Its ships came home heavy year after year from a new world that seemed to have no bottom. And still, between 1557 and 1647, the Spanish crown broke its word to its lenders at least 7 times. 7 defaults from the empire that owned more treasure than any power on earth. So the question is not how a poor kingdom went broke. Poor kingdoms go broke every century, quietly, without anyone noticing. The question is how a kingdom drowning in wealth managed to default again and again. What snaps inside an empire when the treasure keeps arriving and the money keeps failing? Something in the machine broke faster than the ships could refill it. This chamber, with its empty boxes and its unpaid promises, is the scene of the crime. This is one case from the impossible archive, and the evidence is all that we follow here. To understand what buried the wealthiest treasury on earth, we have to follow the evidence, wave by wave, back to the thing everyone in that room thought they could count on. The first clue, waiting in the auditor's drawer, is barely bigger than a fist of clay. All the gold ever mined in human history would fit into a cube roughly 22 meters on each side, about the size of a small building. Every treasure fleet, every ruined empire fought over that one cube. The case turns on it. Gold's value rests on a single quiet promise. There is only so much, and no one can make more. Scarcity is the foundation. Press on it the way an auditor presses a number he doesn't trust. Suppose someone could actually make gold, the old dream of the philosopher's stone. No one ever did. This is only a thought experiment. Yet, the moment you press, the first thing that cracks is not a bank or a treasury. It is the price. A price is only a story we agree to believe, and gold is worth what it is worth because we are certain the cube can never grow. Miners so often mistook iron pyrite for the real thing that it earned a name, fool's gold. The one number the Spanish treasury counted on rested on a myth about the metal in the cube. A page corner lifts in the draft, and the myth begins to move. The second clue is not a shape, but an institution. The Royal Mint inside the Tower of London, built to guard the cube. Its master, around 1700, was Isaac Newton, keeper of the nation's gold since 1699. You would expect him to be the last believer left that the cube could ever grow. He was not. In secret, Newton filled an estimated 1 million words of alchemical notes, hunting the transmutation of metals. The guardian of scarcity was privately obsessed with breaking it. That obsession was written into English law. In 1404, Parliament made it a crime to multiply gold or silver. They called it the Act Against Multipliers. You do not outlaw the impossible. And in 1689, Robert Boyle lobbied to repeal it. He wanted the freedom to try, and Parliament gave it to him. The old ban was struck from the books, and still no one made an ounce of gold. So the next crack does not come from an enemy at the gates. It comes from the vault. So what happens when the dream stops living on paper? The third clue waits inside a sealed glass vial, not a book of law. In 1901, Ernest Rutherford and Frederick Soddy showed that radioactive elements transform on their own into other elements. The transmutation the Mint's master hunted in secret turned out to be real. It simply had nothing to do with alchemy. Then came the deliberate version. In 1980, Glenn Seaborg used a particle accelerator to turn bismuth into a handful of gold atoms. The old dream done for real. But the proof came with a catch, because proof is not the same as profit. The fact that proves it possible is the fact that kills it. Those few atoms cost millions of times more than the gold was worth. In the laboratory, by deliberate transmutation, gold can be made. Nobody can afford to make it that way. Economics never ran on whether the cube could grow, only on whether making gold could pay. Follow the evidence to the last wave. The fourth crack does not come from a laboratory at all. It comes from an empire that had already run the experiment 4 centuries early, at a mountain of silver in the Andes called Potosi. After mining began there in 1545, an estimated 40,000 tons of silver flowed into Spain over the following century. This was the cube growing, not in a legend or an accelerator, but in the holds of galleons. The metal everyone called scarce arrived by the shipload, and over that century, historians estimate Spanish prices roughly quadrupled. The empire got richer in metal and poorer in what it could buy. It is the same count we opened with, 7 broken promises across those 90 years, now with its cause in plain sight, a treasury drowning in real, cheaply won silver. The pattern holds, wave after wave. The price of gold cracked first, because a price is only a story. The mint cracked next, its own master hunting the secret in the dark. The laboratory cracked the impossible open and proved it could not pay. The last crack was the oldest, a treasury emptying while the treasure kept arriving. The auditor's task was never whether the cube could grow, it was what breaks when it does. History had already filed the answer under Seville in a ledger nobody thought to read. The case is closed, and its verdict was filed long before the auditor opened it. In 1971, the United States cut the dollar's last tie to gold. It was not a legend or an accelerator or a galleon full of silver. It was a signature on a Sunday evening on the record. The system did not wait for the cube to grow. It let go of the metal first. That fault echoes the one that stripped the Spanish treasury we started in, boxes emptying while the galleons still came home heavy. So the question was never whether gold could become common. It was always what we would do the day it did. Newton had already hunted that secret in the dark and kept it there. Each time the same thing broke, not the metal, but the trust we hung on it. It is why a lump of pyrite could pass for gold and earn the name fool's gold. The value was never in the stone, only in the mark we agreed to believe. Scarcity, it turns out, was always the story, and the price was always the storyteller. What remains is a single open entry, the same question left unfiled. Is anything a ledger calls scarce truly counted? The ledgers are closed and the candle is nearly out, and that one line waits for whoever reads the record next.